Hello friends and welcome to a brand new camera test between the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra against its predecessor the S23 Ultra. I am going to test every category and at the end of the video I will tell you if you should upgrade. So sit back and enjoy. Let's start this test by comparing their front cameras. As far as daylight, every picture is taken in auto mode with Scene Optimizer enabled but AI or beauty filters are disabled. In this first sample, both phones look very similar, if not identical. They continue to be very alike even in this other sample. The S23 Ultra was already one of the best, but I expected a bit more with the S24 Ultra. Both are doing an amazing job when it comes to facial details, but my skin color isn't as accurate. Samsung phones, however, have always been fantastic when it comes to dynamic range. As you can see from these samples, my face is well enlightened on both and the sky is perfectly preserved. Switching to their main cameras, and here there isn't much to talk about them. They are truly exceptional in every scene and both devices are some of the best in the industry. There are some slight differences, so let me break them down. From what I saw, the color tone of the new S24 seems to be a bit warmer compared to the cooler colors of the S23 Ultra. This isn't really a big difference, but when you have two phones that take outstanding pictures, you have to go into details. There were cases like this one where I couldn't find any differences at all. Both are amazing and I just can't find any flaws on these pictures. The main camera of the S24 Ultra continues to take reliable pictures just like its predecessor. Both devices are equipped with ultra-wide cameras and just like with their main lenses, they continue to be very similar to each other. This time, however, I think that the S24 picture is a bit more contrasty, but honestly this is a minor thing. For the most part, their ultra-wide cameras inherit the colors from of their primary cameras and this shows consistency. They have excellent colors, superb dynamic range and plenty of details. The new S24 Ultra in some samples does a better job with shadow areas like here for example, where the trees are brighter and better exposed compared to the S23 Ultra. Is this a big deal? Really not, but it is worth mentioning. Now let's shift our focus to the telephoto cameras where I encountered some interesting results. Firstly, at 3x both are great, but the S23 Ultra has a more aggressive sharpening while the S24 looks much more natural. At 5x the S24 Ultra switches to the periscope camera and of course it performs great, but the S23 Ultra is doing just as good despite using digital zoom. If I didn't take these pictures, I would never guess which one is the S24 and which is the S23. At 10x the S23 Ultra switches to its periscope camera while the S24 Ultra now uses digital zoom. Just like earlier, both are almost identical and I really can't pick a winner. Things are different when we take pictures at 30x. As you can see, the older S23 Ultra is totally destroying the S24 Ultra. The text is much more visible on the older phone while the new Ultra is nowhere near as good. When zooming in all the way in at 100x, both pictures become unusable, but still in my opinion the S23 Ultra looks a tiny bit better. Just to confirm that the S23 Ultra is better, here is another sample at 30x. Just look at the light bulb and the green roof. The S23 Ultra is retaining more details. At 100x, just like earlier, both look like paintings, but the zoom category goes to the S23 Ultra. These macro pictures are really good and the best part is that they are taken with their periscope cameras, and I bet you didn't know you could do that. I noticed something that no other YouTuber has mentioned it, and it is the minimum focusing distance using the periscope of the S24 Ultra. These pictures are at 5x for the S24 Ultra and at 10x for the S23 Ultra. When zooming in at 10x with the S24 Ultra, you can take outstanding pictures since its minimum focusing distance has been improved quite a bit compared to its predecessor. The S23 Ultra isn't bad at all, but I had to do many takes to get this shot for example. With the S24 Ultra I could get much closer and zoom in at 10x for this amazing macro picture. I even did it with the first try. When it comes to portraits taken with their main cameras, both deliver great results. My face is detailed and even my hair and clothes are perfectly preserved on both. The background, however, seems to be overexposed on the S24 Ultra while it is perfect on the S23 Ultra. Portraits at 3x are a similar story, but here I noted that the S24 Ultra did a superior job with my coat and even the edge detection looks a bit better. With the S24 Ultra you can also take amazing portraits at 5x. Since I got the 15 Pro Max, portraits taken at this zoom range are my favorites, and I am glad Samsung is adopting this too. When recording videos with their main cameras, we can see that the S23 Ultra has actually better colors. The stabilization seems to be identical, but the sky and the red building are overexposed on the new Ultra. I think the S23 Ultra is better refined. When recording with their ultrawide cameras, they are actually closer in quality compared to their main cameras. The ground is a bit better handled on the older model, but for the most part they are similar if not identical. Videos at 3x are identical. They have the same great stabilization, the same colors and even the same dynamic range. I had to check a couple of times to make sure that I didn't post the same video on both sides. Videos at 10x are a different story. Here the S24 Ultra actually looks better despite the fact that it is using digital zoom instead of optical like the S23 Ultra. The latter seems to be a bit washed out, that's why I prefer the 10x video of the new model. Moving to low light, and from now on every picture is taken with night mode enabled in auto seconds unless I say otherwise for a specific case. In this first selfie test I noted that my face is not only brighter on the newer model but sharper as well. In the next sample both have a similar color tone and a similar brightness level, but just like in the previous case the S24 Ultra kept more details of my face. On the S23 Ultra I don't look as sharp, that's why I prefer the newer phone. When it comes to their main cameras, both have the signature Samsung processing that we all know and love, and honestly both are very good, but like with many cases there are some differences too. The S24 Ultra just looks sharper and it is handling the highlights a bit better. In some samples like this one I prefer the brighter picture of the S24 Ultra because it made everything more visible without crushing the lights of the store. The S23 Ultra is almost just as good but a bit darker. In the next scene, however, the added brightness on the S24 Ultra makes the grass almost pink and it gives the picture an unnatural look. The S23 Ultra represents more how it was in real life and it just gives me the night ambience. Based on these results I believe that when there are places with plenty of light sources the S24 Ultra does a better job since it retains more details and it doesn't crush the highlights. On the other hand, when light sources are scarce the S23 Ultra performs better. We have a similar story even when taking pictures with the ultra-wide cameras. You can see in this particular sample the ground is much sharper on the S24 Ultra while it looks soft on the previous Ultra model. The S24 Ultra continues to be more detailed even with other scenes. It has also slightly warmer colors and the distortion isn't as noticeable as on the S23 Ultra. The latter is doing slightly better in darker areas like in this one where in real life the grass was pitch black. Now the S24 Ultra made it brighter, but like I said earlier this is just too bright and the S23 Ultra represents the scene better. Overall these ultra-wide cameras are some of the best in the industry. Last year I had fun taking landscape pictures with the S23 Ultra and so far, I am enjoying the S24 Ultra just as much. Switching to the telephoto cameras and at 3x the S24 Ultra is doing a much better job. The picture is brighter without being too bright and it retains more details compared to the S23 Ultra. At 5x the difference becomes even bigger since the S24 Ultra switches to the periscope camera while the S24 Ultra uses digital zoom only and it is starting to lose details quite a bit. Surprisingly even at 10x the S24 Ultra looks much better even though the S23 Ultra is using the periscope camera. I think this is because the 5x of the S24 Ultra is a much larger sensor and it lets light more compared to the sensor of the S23 Ultra. Once again going to another place at 3x, both are good and this time they look identical too. At 5x the S24 Ultra looks obviously better with the S23 Ultra being not as detailed. The 3x of the S23 Ultra is the weakest sensor and of course it can't keep up. This time however at 10x it is the S23 Ultra with a better picture. In this case it managed to beat the S24 Ultra because the bright lights are better retained and even the tree branches are sharper compared to its successor. Occasionally, like in this particular sample at 10x, the S24 Ultra just didn't want to activate the night mode, while I never encountered this problem with the S23 Ultra. Obviously, the latter looks better because night mode is fantastic. I think Samsung should let us decide when to use night mode instead of insisting that there isn't a need for it. Compared to regular pictures, I notice that with portraits we have completely different results. The S24 Ultra now is darker while the S23 Ultra tries to make portraits brighter. Night mode was used on both. Personally, here I prefer the picture taken with last year's Ultra. Portraits taken at 3x are very similar to each other with minor differences only. Both did a fantastic job keeping most of the details of my face and my hair. Portraits taken at 5x with the S24 Ultra are even better. My face is very sharp and even my hair is well in focus. I really love taking portraits with this lens. So guys, what do you think? Which one was your winner? Personally, I think that both did an amazing job with most cases and I believe that if you have the S23 Ultra you are still on top of the food chain since its cameras are still very capable. This year the cameras aren't a reason to upgrade. If you did enjoy this video, a thumbs up would be appreciated. Thank you for watching and for more content like this please consider subscribing to my channel.